And this is why this episode is so important. This is episode number 2.
Dos.
So this is why this episode is so important, talking about how to use debt to become rich. Because this is what billionaires have done.
Correct.
Right?
Are
But
doing. Will
poor
do.
people, broke people, right? They use debt to stay poor.
Yeah.
They use debt to to stay on under the radar, to stay in a disadvantaged position because because they've not heard this podcast, or somebody have not taught them on how debt is good. And I think that might be a good place for us to start because
get into it.
you were raised by immigrant parents. I was raised in Nigeria. I was raised by my grandma, and my grandma, she was. At the time, I thought we were okay, but looking back now, we're kind of below middle class, right? She was wealthy at some point, single mother, built 5 homes, and
That's
building
a big deal.
a big deal.
As a woman.
Uneducated single mother, never went to school a day. My grandma never read a book, never went to school, not because she was not intelligent or not because she didn't want to, but because our dad did not take her to school, because at the time in Africa they felt like women were like property of
Their husband.
their husband. So to them, what's the point spending money to invest to educate her daughter when she's going to end up in the kitchen anyway, where the husband will never allow her to go to work with it. So what's the point, right? So that's how they put the females, the daughters, in that kind of educational bondage. So she never had the opportunity to go to school because her dad would never sponsor her to go to go to school. But still, yes, she learned a skill. She learned tailoring and she learned trading.
Yeah.
And so with that, she was able to start like a petty trader type stuff, like buying, snacks and groceries and selling. Then she went into tailoring. Then she traveled to Lagos, which was like 4 hours south from Benin. And then she buy clothes and sell. She go to Onitsha. And my grandma learned multiple languages. She could speak Benin, Yoruba fluently, Igbo somewhat, because she was always trading in those areas, right? And and she built 5 houses as a single woman, which was very, very amazing, but then diabetes complications, she started losing her sight, then started losing her income, and at the time I was born, her money was going down and down and down. And so I told this in story 1 episode before, which a lot of people really, really connected with, how growing up, what some of my fondest memories was that we only ate chicken, like when I say chicken means like a full leg or a full thigh or a full breast. That only happens twice a year,
Right.
which was Christmas and Easter Sunday. That was it, right? We only really ate rice mostly on Sundays. And rice was the favorite food growing up, So I remember too, things were so bad that, and she was raising me, my brothers, and other people in the house, that other kids in the house, so it was hard to get a full boiled egg to yourself. So to get egg on Sundays, which was the number 1 day we eat egg, and rice is a boiled egg, you have to cut into like at least 4 pieces. So whatever piece you have, that's the protein that you eat with the carbs, the rice, head of fish and all those kind of situations. So growing up like that, so I experienced poverty trauma,
Yes.
which a lot of people, if you grew up in poverty, lack, or whereby money was always an issue or money was always a conversation in the house, you yourself, you are a victim of poverty trauma, but you probably don't know it yet, right? So growing up there, so all I heard was, get out of debt. Debt is not good. Don't borrow money. Don't use credit cards. Credit card is only for emergency. Credit card is only, for that extra thing when things are not working well, just to rescue you, right?
Yeah.
Stay away from debt. And then growing up in church too, in the Word of Faith movement, and all we heard was debt-free living, debt-free living, debt-free living, which something that was kind of hypocritical, because a lot of these churches were teaching debt-free living, we're borrowing money to build bigger buildings and
Right.
carry mortgages and having
More
debt
people can come in.
so more people come
So
to the
they
church.
were leveraging debt,
They were-
but not teaching the people how to leverage debt.
Exactly. And they were talking like debt free, that God wants to be debt free, don't owe nobody but love and all of that stuff. So that further conditioned me for poverty trauma.
Because you were already, so here's the thing, because you already had a programming that was, was debt is bad.
Yeah.
So hearing those messages perpetuated that programming that you had.
Yeah.
Versus someone else who knows that knows how to leverage debt.
Yeah.
If they were hearing those messages, it would further propagate them in a different way than you.
Yes.
Because of the programming that you had.
Exactly. So the programming conditioned me for poverty and lack because I was scared of debt, right? I wouldn't touch anything that was close to debt. You know, it took a long time to be able to buy our home, partly because I just wanted to rent and pay my bills and don't worry about debt or mortgage or anything like that, you know. But then when we started learning about how to become wealthy, how to build wealth, I was started building we're going to come up with a word, our richness or our rich, whatever. We're going to come with trying to, you know, pretty much working to become rich and get on that rich ladder. I began to study billionaires, and same too with you, Dr. Faith. So we studied billionaires and millionaires, and we found that especially when you live in America, in fact, anywhere in the world, right? The society, the culture was never built for anybody to use their own money to become wealthy.
That's right.
So to become wealthy, you have to leverage debt. You have to use debt to get wealthy, to become rich, right? That's what they call OPM, other people's money, right? So what was your experience before we kind of go deep into it? Hey, stay tuned, it's about to get really, really good. But what's been your experience with, debt? Debt is bad, debt is not good. And, maybe growing up or through your environment, what you've heard from society. What's been your experience with that up to before we, kind of understood that debt is good? Debt is a friend.
It is. For me, I had the same thing, which was poverty programming. When you have immigrants, they're coming from a different country, you're literally starting all over again. So I was born when my parents were literally starting. So they're growing up now in a new country, and I'm growing up with them. And so in the home, it was Nigeria. But once I left home, I was in America. Yeah. So it was like this juxtaposition of me and my life. Yeah. And so with them, it was, a penny saved is a penny earned.
Yeah.
Money does not grow on trees. Stop asking me for stuff. And my dad is a true Igbo man, okay? And he would, I had a set of friends, they were twins, and one was super skinny like I was, and then the other one was she was more curvy. And so the skinny one had this growth spurt or what have you, but they would have clothes. And so their mom was like, oh, I put all this stuff together for you because I know you guys are the same size, but she's taller than you because she just had this growth spurt out of nowhere. And I was like, thank you. I don't care what the reason is. Give me all the clothes. And I remember this one thing very distinctly. And I had gotten dressed to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And my dad was like, where did you get these clothes? Because he knew. He had not bought me anything new. So he pretty much had memorized my closet.
Yeah.
And so I came out with these new clothes. And I was like, oh, my friend gave it to me. He was like, take it off, give it back. I don't beg no man for nothing. I don't, he was going off, and I was like, shocked. What is the big deal? And he was like, no, absolutely not. And to this day, even as I'm telling that story, I'm seeing everything happen. I remember the outfit. It was like a little leather black skirt and this bright poppin' orange, yellow top. I was cute. You can't tell me nothing. And he was like, take it off and give her all her stuff back. I was so embarrassed. And her mom was just like, it's okay. Not everybody likes that stuff. So I get it. I didn't care. I was embarrassed, but that really stuck with me and conditioned me to always feel like it was never enough. So I never felt like I had enough. I started working at like 15, 16. And I was going to school. I was running track. I was going to work. I was when I finally got my car in high school, my dad was paying for my car, but I was paying for my gas and for my insurance.
Yeah.
So if I was giving anybody a ride, no, you got to put 5 on it quickly, or I'm not picking you up. So I was always in that hustle, like trying to figure out how to get more money. And so that followed me into my later years. And so in entrepreneurship, I would start a business. I would make all this money in the beginning, and then it would just start decreasing. No matter what I did, it just kept decreasing. And so then I start a new business and I make all this money, and it kept decreasing. I'm like, what in the world? Like, I didn't even realize what was happening, but it was this money roller coaster that I was on.
Yeah.
And I just could not figure it out. So I could get myself to make a lot of money, get out of debt, but then I'd end up right back in debt because my money would slow down, but my spending wouldn't slow down.
Wow.
Yikes. So yeah, that was my money roller coaster that I was on for a long time until we really started doing that individual work and studying and becoming knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And then just also training myself to understand what I didn't know about money.
Yeah, that's so important, you know. And one of the things that really helped us too was, you know, learning, studying, investing in coaches, mentors, reading books, hundreds of books, hundreds of you know, tapes and podcasts and all of these things, and really learning and understanding that debt is good, right? That even God never meant for you to use all your money to build all the wealth that He has for you. Because if that was so, then God would have given you all the money you need to build wealth. Right. So the reason why you don't have all the money you need right now to do everything that you're meant to do in your lifetime is because you were not meant to finance every dream every business inside of you. Right. Some of it was meant for you to use and utilize other people's money, the bank's money, using debt, using recession to build wealth. Right.
Being a good steward.
Yeah.
So over what you have and then what comes in.
Yeah. So most people became really wealthy. You know, most billionaires become even more wealthier, right? In recession, because you understand when people are afraid to spend, that's the best time that debt is cheap. That's the best time to use debt to build wealth.